The second I stepped through those glass doors, the air changed, not the temperature. Just the tone. I felt it in the stiffness of Tara's smile at reception, the way her fingers paused over the keyboard when she saw me. "Good morning, I'm Jerome Carter here for the 10 a.m. with Mr. Daniels." She blinked twice too fast. "Of course, right, you can head up third floor. Left hallway, conference room B." Her voice tried to sound warm, but her eyes told another story. When I opened the door, Mr. Daniels was already laughing about something. Three white men in suits turned to look at me, their expressions all dipping into a familiar mix of surprise and tight politeness. Mr. Daniels leaned back in his chair, eyes sweeping me slowly. "I thought we were interviewing for a senior associate," he said with a smirk. "Not security detail." The room chuckled. Quiet, but not quiet enough. My jaw clenched. Just for a second he stepped forward and smiled. "Well, I assure you, my resume speaks louder than your assumptions." He raised an eyebrow. Almost impressed, I'd answered back. "Almost. Let's get started," he said, gesturing to a chair. "Tell us about yourself. You're fit for our firm." "My fit? You know your style, your philosophy. We value cultural alignment here." "Someone who doesn't ruffle feathers." I nodded slowly. "I came to contribute, not to camouflage." One of the other men scribbled something on his pad. Another sipped his coffee without looking at me. Daniels leaned forward. "We're a tight-knit team, work hard. Play golf together, family barbecues." "I'm more of a chess guy," I said, smiling, "but I'm open to barbecues." That didn't land. Daniels cleared his throat. "Your credentials are impressive," he said, "but tell me, Jerome, ever feel like you're too polished? Too idealistic for this industry? Is that a concern?" He gave a half shrug. "We just need people who understand how this game works, when to push, when to stay quiet. I know when to speak," I said, "and when silence costs more." That hung in the air for a beat. He nodded, scribbled something, and stood. "Well," he said, extending his hand, "you'll hear from us." Though I wouldn't hold my breath, I shook it anyway. "Good thing I've trained mine." As I walked toward the elevator, I heard a faint voice behind me. "Mr. Carter." I turned. A young man in a navy sweater, brown skin, nervous eyes, stood by the break room door. "I'm college junior analyst, been here 2 years. Nice to meet you." He stepped closer, voice low. "You're not the first they've treated like that." I figured. He glanced over his shoulder. "It doesn't mean you don't belong, just means they know you do." I smiled. "Thanks for that." He nodded once, then slipped away. As I stepped into the elevator, the steel doors reflected my face back at me, calm, composed but burning just under the surface. They didn't see me, not really, but they would. I stood just outside the glass door of the boardroom. My reflection stared back. Black suit, burgundy tie, calm eyes. 2 years ago, I couldn't have imagined this moment now. I couldn't wait for it. I pushed the door open. Mr. Daniels was mid-sentence, pacing like a man whose world was slipping. "We need to make sure whoever this new owner is, they understand how we do things here." He froze, his eyes locked onto mine. The blood drained from his face like someone had pulled the plug. His voice cracked. "What?" I stepped inside, letting the door close behind me with a quiet click. "Yes, Mr. Daniels," I said, voice even. "We meet again, though this time I'll be sitting at the head of the table." Tara stood immediately, eyes wide with disbelief, but then she smiled. It wasn't fake either. It was warm, genuine. Khalid walked in a second later, carrying a few papers, not looking up. "Hey." I was just. He looked up. He stopped, his mouth fell open. "Jerome." I gave him a small nod. "Hey, Khalid, good to see you again." Mr. Daniels stumbled back a step, gripping the chair beside him like it was the only thing holding him upright. "This is some kind of joke." I walked to the head of the table, slow and steady, and pulled out the chair. "The joke," I said, sitting down, "was thinking I needed your approval to succeed." Silence. No one breathed. The tension in the room was so thick it could crack glass. He finally spoke again, weaker this time. "You bought controlling interest?" "That's right." I leaned back in the chair. "My chair now, majority shareholder. Your bosses, your board, they now answer to me." Tara glanced between us, lips slightly parted. I saw the flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. Mr. Daniels shook his head. "You never fit in here. You were too combative, always defensive." I laughed quietly. "I wasn't your fit because I didn't look like your son-in-law or your golf buddy. That was always the real issue." He opened his mouth like he might protest, but he didn't. He closed it. I stood again, walked slowly toward him. "You saw my skin first, not my skills, not my work ethic, just my tone, my walk, my name, and you made your mind up." He looked away, but I fit just fine into a chair. I whispered. You thought you'd never lose, Khalid. Exhaled sharply. It's good to see someone like us lead finally. I turned to him. You still here? Yeah, he said, smiling. Didn't think I'd last, honestly, but I kept my head down, waited. I nodded. Well, time to lift it up now, Mr. Daniels muttered, barely audible. Maybe we made mistakes. I stared at him, let the silence settle. Again, no, I said, my voice quiet, but heavy. You didn't make mistakes, you made choices. Every smirk, every ignored suggestion, every comment you let slide, every promotion you passed me over, for every door you shut in my face. He blinked hard. And now, I leaned closer. Now, you live with them. He looked so small, then smaller than I'd ever seen him, like all the air had gone out of him. I turned back toward the table. Tara, I said. Yes, Mr. Jerome? Start preparing the internal announcement now. Leadership, new values, new direction. She nodded quickly, already reaching for her tablet. Yes, sir, Khalid, I said. I'll need you with me during the restructure. You know how this place works under pressure. He grinned. I'm ready. I started walking out, but just as I reached the door, I stopped. Oh, and Mr. Daniels? I said without turning around. Yes? You were right. I didn't fit in. I looked back over my shoulder. I was never meant. Toy was meant to rise above it. His lips parted, but he didn't say anything. I stood in the CEO office, my office. Now the city stretched out before me through floor-to-ceiling windows, but I wasn't really looking at IT. I was remembering how I stood once, begging just to be heard, defending my tone, justifying my expression, apologizing for existing too loudly. And now, I didn't have to raise my voice at all. Power, I whispered, watching the glass fog gently with my breath. Tastes better when they told you you'd never get a seat at the table. I sat in the leather chair, leaned back, and let the silence of victory settle in, not loud, not vengeful, just earned, and that, I realized, was the sweetest part.